So I started my career with ENY in the audit and the controllership roles, where I used to spend hours and hours diving into the numbers, reconciliation, and the financial statement. I took up a controllership role with Deloitte, reporting to the CFO office. In my current role, which is the finance head for Akraya, I'm again focusing on how I can help with value creation.
You have worked on margins, M&A, setting up teams, building global teams, governance. What has been the top
Mhm.
challenges that you have faced?
Starting 2024, one of the biggest challenge what I saw was the scaling of the company. So as a solution, lower cost for Kraya as well, no tax compliances, no hassle for the any kind of taxation. Our margin actually increased almost by 2 basis points. Another challenge what I faced is the process management. I actually combined all the three process, cash, and technology transformation. We implemented the end-to-end finance transformation where we automated the invoice life cycle. You'll be surprised when we implemented all these processes enhancements in the next 6 months, my DSO dropped from
Wow,
78 to
very
42.
nice. Considering that it's a new company, you must have had to understand the company's culture and then walk the tightrope between culture and processes and compliances. We at Finflow also have always believed timesheet systems, project management systems, all systems needs to be connected.
Once you start leading a team, it's not about how you are managing the geography or the people. It's all about how you are managing the mindset of the people. I focus on three leadership principle as a kind of a cadence. What I have done is every Friday I meet with my team and I ensure that I've been sharing the updates about the company, the culture, the process. Second, empowerment. I ask my deputies to allow their team members to instill a kind of a confidence so that they can make a decision without waiting for somebody like me or Amar. Third, I ensure that each of my team member understand what kind of a contribution they are making.
The point that you do a weekly sync with your team, that's a great thing of doing that cumulative soul searching, if I may call it.
The entire ERP space has evolved a lot. If I have to sum it up, the struggle, what still we have with the ERP, my favorite is like 3I: integration, intelligence, and insight. Integration, why? Because I've seen, be it SAP, Oracle, or anyone, there was a lack of seamlessness, either because of currency or because of some reason. But I've seen that integration was like not that very successful. Second, in terms of intelligence, that restrict the features of the ERP, which actually what they have built for. The third is insight. ERP does not have that predictive intelligence, and that's where I always prefer people to start using AI. AI has a lot of features, especially for the finance. I personally love it. Do any kind of a deep dive analysis, any market research. I love using AI.
You mentioned integration, intelligence, and insights pretty much covers things. A lot of automation that service providers can come and get in and bring it atop the ERP, getting the data connectivity and building AI layers.
My biggest advice: start think beyond the accounting because the CFO role is changing a lot. It's all about the value creation. And one last thing: stay curious.
Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Amartya Singh, co founder and CEO of Inflow, a product built by and for modern finance teams using AI. Welcome to the 21st episode of Inside the CFO Office, where we explore the journeys of finance leaders, discuss the challenges they have overcome, and gain insights into the future of finance. So today we have with us Swarn Kamal, the Vice President of Finance at Akraya Inc., where he leads global finance and operations across US, Canada, Philippines, and India. Akraya is a global staffing and workforce solutions firm on a high growth trajectory, and Swan is helping shape its roadmap to scale the $100 million USD mark. Swan brings close to 2 decades of experience in scaling finance at global organizations like US Tech Solutions, ACS, Global Tech Solutions, Deloitte, Thomson Reuters, and EY. His work stands out for operational financial leadership, cash flow optimization, and building finance organization structures and operations that scale. Today, we'll be speaking on the topic of leading global finance teams and operations. Welcome, Swan. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Amata. Thank you for having me here. It's great to connect with you and be here. I'm looking forward for the entire
Great.
discussion with you.
Thanks, Anand. So I think let's dig into the podcast with the first question. I think you have risen through the ranks to become a finance leader. You have worked on gamut of firms. We also spoke about your experience. Would love to know what has been your journey towards becoming a finance leader.
If I look back when I started my career 19 years back, I would say my journey has been more of an evolution rather than a straight line. I never got a chance to basically directly start as a manager or a controller. So I started my career with the ENY. I was fortunate enough that I was the first person who got placed there in the audit and the controllership roles, where I used to spend hours and hours diving into the numbers, reconciliation, and the financial statement. Back then, 19 years back, for a finance professional, success, what it used to meant was accuracy and the compliance. But over the time, when basically I got matured in the role, moved to the next company, which is Thomson Reuters, which is a more of a product subscription based company, and where I saw the difference between how the different model, how the business model basically changes as the organization changes. I realized that finance isn't about reporting about only the numbers or crunching the numbers or reporting about the past. It's all about how we can shape the future. And that realization actually changed the entire career for finance for me. My journey basically changed from here. I took up a controllership role with Deloitte, where I was actually reporting to the CFO office. And I started helping them with the project profitability in a different scenarios. Basically, I was helping them understand that any change in the team composition, any change in the project, how it is going to impact the cost and overall margin of the project. And after spending 6 good years, again, I took a leadership role with the ACS solution, where I got a chance to work very closely with the CFO, especially together. In fact, we initiated three buy side acquisition. I was heavily involved in the financial due diligence, one in the US, one in India, and another one in Taiwan. So this transition from consulting to the managed solution provider was not that difficult for me, since business and revenue model was same. Later on, after becoming a head of the finance for US Tech Solution, I moved to US. And again, at a global standpoint, I saw basically how the business dynamics changes when you are sitting in the headquarters, looking at the finance, working on how to scale up the business, maintaining the same margins and all. Now, in my current role, which is the finance head for Akraya, more or less, I'm again focusing on how basically I can help my current organization with the value creation, because now the gamut of the finance, the face of the finance has changed. Earlier, it used to be more of a process driven. It is still a process driven, but considering the kind of a transformation, digital transformation, if the word, if I allow me to use, and the kind of technological advancement has brought into the industry, it has completely changed. And we, being a finance professional, how basically we are inculcating all the changes, introducing the governance model, and how basically we are helping the business to scale up confidently. Thus now became my role in
Got
Akraya.
it. Thanks, on. I think across your journey in terms of handling different kinds of finance role, you have worked on margins, you have worked on M&As, you have worked on setting up teams, building teams, global teams, you have worked on governance in terms of building that discipline, internal discipline, and most importantly, managing the scale of operations as firms scale and grow. How do you do that? So I think great to know. I think you come from a specific background of learning a lot of things across your career. You have not done the same thing again and again, but you've also expanded your boundaries onto multiple other roles depending upon what that situation or the company demands. So great to know your global experience
Correct.
across so many great firms, both in globally as well as in different geographies. So great. I think let's move to the next question. I think we've spoken briefly on Akraya. I think we'd love to know what has been the top
Mhm.
challenges that you have faced in Akraya considering the modern times.
So, if I talk about Akraya, as you mentioned, Akraya is a talent management company, and now we are actually positioning ourselves more as a managed service provider. And our promoter and the owner, Amar Panchal, great visionary leader. He actually ensured that the kind of organization he's creating that value people, that value client, and then the kind of a core value we have that itself basically talks about that people who are part of this organization, they understand that we own each and every action of day-to-day business. We are on the learning trajectory, and then we ensure that we are delivering the high quality value to our clients. Apart from the core value, obviously, coming to the challenges, if I talk about when I took up this role in 2024, starting of the 2024, One of the biggest challenge what I saw was the scaling of the company. Every company basically wanted to grow. And if I take you a little bit back in the history during the 2022-23, when the COVID was like created a havoc and the entire US economy, any economy was actually going backward. They were not thinking about any kind of an investment, any projects opportunity which a company like Akraya was looking for. Everyone was like either get held up or getting shut down. Long story short, obviously during that particular time, every organization became a kind of a cost conscious at that point of a time. And we also till 2022 Akraya was on a higher scale. It was growing year on year basis, but when the COVID hit we started falling down. And then 2024 when I sat down with Amar, our first discussion was like how we can bring back the company on the growth trajectory. And client does not want it to invest. Every company, every client in the US, they wanted to cut down the cost. So we understood the pulse of our client. We started looking at how we can ensure that the client get the right talent. Especially we done a kind of a survey analysis with our current client. And one of the findings we found that they want to collaborate, they still want to go ahead and open up the projects, provided we start providing the quality and the talent at a lower cost. In US, that was not possible that time. And that is where we started exploring outside US how we can actually collaborate. We saw an opportunity there. But again, every other country, every other market has its own compliance norms, tax structure, and operational complications, which not every company would like to go for. The same kind of a question challenges Amar had for me as well. He wanted to grow, he wanted to explore the option outside US, but ensuring that we are not getting entangled with any kind of tax compliances or any kind of operational framework which is not viable for the company at that point of a time. So as a solution, what we thought that why not engage somebody from the global side who can actually run the entire operation without setting up an entity outside US, and then find the talent at a lower cost for the Akraya as well. No tax compliances, no hassle for the any kind of taxation, and then everything will be in the US dollar. Client will get the right talent at a lower cost. Akraya will get the services at a lower cost, and then from a compliance standpoint, we
Got
are
it.
compliant. So that has given a very huge edge within a year, and we have seen our margin actually increased almost by 2 basis points. That was the one big challenge as soon as I joined, I started facing, and then that's what we have explored. Another challenge what I faced when I joined here is the process management. And since I'm coming from the finance, and cash flow is like one of my core area of focus, so I saw that cash flow was also a concern here. And then the technological transformation. So I actually combined all the three: process, cash, and technology transformation, all three together. And then I started analyzing the problem. The problem was not the people. We had the great team. We had the good system. But the problem was there were multiple systems we were using it. And the data was coming from a different sources. There were a lot of hands getting involved in between. And that is what creating the challenges when the output was actually coming out. So I just sat down with the team and then led an initiative where we implemented the end-to-end finance transformation, where we automated the invoice life cycle. We made it sure that whatever the one source of truth we have, that is the same source of truth. Finance is also using it for our data, and then to ensure that we have a proper cash flow. You'll be surprised to know when I joined, my DSO was standing at 78. So you can imagine that a company at our scale having a DSO, which tells you that how soon you're recovering your
Right.
money from the client, standing at 78, which means that you're almost taking double of your time to recover the money, which means that for your since being a talent management company, you require the fund every 2 week because you are processing the payroll for almost
Right.
600 people. That working capital leverage started killing me. And when we implemented all these processes, enhancements and everything, in the next 6 months my DSO dropped from
Wow.
78 to
Very
42.
nice.
So that actually created a lot of strength in my liquidity. Our working cycle capital cycle improved. And then, of course, later on, it became a kind of a history, and now we are focusing how we can actually go towards the 100 million.
Great. I think of your answers, I think the first answer with regards to scaling the company post COVID, expanding into other geographies, managing the tax compliance issues, and yet able to service from a USD and managing getting the revenues in dollars. That was a huge change. And I'm sure that considering that it was a new company, you must have had to understand how the company is, understand the company's culture, and then walk the tightrope between the company's culture and processes and compliances. So I'm sure that must have been a great journey and learning experience for you. And the second one, I loved it. It's close to my heart, and we have spoken about it on a lot as well. Really great to see that you put in that efforts to decrease the
Mhm.
DSO from 78 to 42. That's a huge change. And I also agree that you were talking about single source of truth across different systems. We at Finflow also have always believed that's a huge difference in terms of connecting the ERP, CRM, banking systems, order management systems, manage timesheet systems, project management systems. All these systems needs to be connected. Only then it makes sense, a lot of sense. So
Correct.
loved your answer in terms of both challenging complexity companies as well as working on the technology and processes. So let's move to the next question. We'd love to know the topic of today's podcast about managing global teams and operations. How has been your experience? I know you manage teams across the globe, and we were also speaking that you work throughout the day because your time zones does not match with other your team members' time zones. So how do you do that?
It's not easy, my friend, to be honest. We work 24 into 7. I mean, my company is a California based company, San Francisco based, headquartered. I follow a PST time zone, which you can understand that as of today, office hours starts from 10 o'clock and it goes till 7 a.m. in the morning. Anyways, yes, a lot of challenges when you are sitting as a global head and then you have been managing multiple teams across geography. But if you allow me to quote, based on my experience, I have seen if once you start leading a team, it's not about how you are managing the geography or the people. It's all about how you are managing the mindset of the people. Especially at Akraya, our finance operation, we have offices in Philippines, we have offices in India, we have offices in UK as well as in US. So right from US to India to Philippines, what I basically emphasize on that people need not only need the collaboration, the strong collaboration, but more importantly, they need to trust each other because everyone is working from a different geography, as you understand, and one person sitting in Philippines executing, let's say, a payroll, and another person sitting in India managing the entire timesheet. So unless those two people having a strong collaboration and trust between each other, the process will not be successful, and there will be more chances of ball dropping or challenges, or somebody is missing something, time zone differences. It could be anything. So trust, I believe that is something more important, and that's where I focus on three leadership principles, basically, which I always share it with my team. As a kind of a cadence, what I have done is every Friday I meet with my team and I ensure that I've been sharing the updates about the company, the culture, the process, what's going on with the company, clients, what pipeline we have, in what direction we are going. In case something we are not doing good or any project we have to take it up in 30, 60, 90 days. That's something, everything we talk about in those 1 hour. But at the same time, in terms of the principle, I ensure that all my people are very clear on goals, what their goals are, how they're going to be get measured on those goals, and among themselves, they have a complete transparency that who will be doing what. So clarity is one principle which I ensure that my team have it appropriately between themselves. Second, empowerment. I actually allow, and at the same time, I ask my deputies also to allow their team members to instill a kind of a confidence so that they can make a decision without waiting for somebody like me or Amar to basically come back and say, okay, this is fine, go ahead. So every small thing not require, obviously we do have a structure governance where any financial transaction, what level of approval is required. But in case if something, let's say small matters where which is not require our attention, a team sitting in India, a team sitting back in US or in Philippines, they can follow those governance, the internal controls, and they can take the call that what is right for that particular time for the organization. So that's something I truly believe within my team. If I don't empower my people, I don't believe in any kind of a micromanagement. I've seen a lot of organization, a lot of people who believe in control, but I think In finance, as I said, that trust is very important. If you do not have between your team, then there's a more chances of either being failure as a team or maybe allowing people to working in the silos.
Got it.
Third principle which I believe on, I ensure that each of my team member understand what kind of a contribution they are making, no matter whether that person is an analyst or a finance director or a controller. They understand that how their work is actually impacting the entire company strategy. So they understand that one transaction and what could be the financial impact on the P&L, and then how basically we're going to take the decision based on that. So that kind of a visibility, my entire team understand that. So as a leader, I truly believe that it's my responsibility that I should build a culture where all my people, doesn't matter in what geography they are sitting, they feel equally respected and equally accountable, doesn't matter where the client is. So that's what I feel the power of the global ownership. And trust me, one thing I've learned since the time I was started managing people across different geography, that everyone talks about the data, that hey, you need to put the KRAs to measure the performance, how people are actually performing and all. But I believe that it is the people who actually lead the data. If I am not performing, then my data will not talk any kind of action about myself. So when my team understand that what is the why behind the numbers, then only my team basically transform from being a transactional into a kind of more of a strategic advisor. So that's the kind of guideline I follow while managing the operation, the team or the team members across the
Got it.
geography.
I loved your answer. I think the three major points that you covered. One was, the point that you do a weekly sync with your team, where you speak on what has happened, what has not happened, how is the overall company doing, how does this pipeline look like, what are the changes which can be done. So that's a great thing of doing that level of cumulative soul searching, if I may call it, along with the entire team, so that the team is entirely on board. And the second thing that you mentioned was giving the confidence, or making them empowered to take decisions on their own. It does not have to come on you, so that the processes are much more faster and they can make mistakes. Most importantly, corrections can be done, but the most important point is having a balance between doing it the right way and doing it fast as well. And the third one was their impact, the work that they're doing, how is it impacting the overall organization, the metrics, looking beyond just the metrics, but also understanding what do they bring to the table. So I love the answers, and that's how great to see that you manage the teams across. It's not easy to manage teams across so many geographies. So great to know. I think let's move to the next question. We spoke about it, about the ERPs, and would love to know what are the challenges that you have seen in the ERPs, and how do you see most importantly AI coming into the picture and changing around things.
So my experience with the ERP, I worked with SAP, I worked with Oracle, I worked with NetSuite also in the past. And what I've seen that in the last 19, 20 years, the entire ERP space has evolved a lot. Earlier, their entire focus was basically how to solve the complexity of the structure of the organization. But somewhere I still feel that there are still struggle when it comes to the ERP. If I have to sum it up, the struggle what still we have with the ERP, my favorite is like 3I. It's not this I, but the three the letter I, which is more of integration, intelligence, and insight. Integration, why? Because I've seen, even I was involved in multiple finance module implementation for various clients, and considering the client requirement, because clients are always demanding. They want everything under the sun to be part of the ERP or the module. But that's something like it's not very possible. Whatever the be it SAP, Oracle, or anyone you name it or take as an example. So if you start working on like putting all your global entities into the ERP system, somewhere I feel that there was a lack of seamlessness, either because of currency or because of some reason. Let's not name that, but I've seen that that integration was like not that very successful most of the
Yeah.
time. Second, in terms of intelligence, like even though let's say you agreed to implement what your client is asking for, that restrict the features of the system of the ERP, which actually what they have built for. So they are okay to bring the customization as per your requirement, but the entire flexibility is gone. So what actually you are using it is more of a rigid system, which may work for you, may not work for the other department or for the other entity. So that's another intelligence failure I see, or challenge I see with the ERP. The third is insight, and that's where the AI basically I would like to mention. ERP does not have that predictive intelligence what actually in today's world what we look for. And that's where I always prefer people to start using AI if your current system does not have that kind of a flexibility. In finance especially, I see a lot of people talk about a lot of insecurity since the time AI has come into picture because of all the automation. My question to them always is, or my counter argument is like, this automation was there even 15 years back. When I was working with the Deloitte, we used to talk about the automations. And that time, it's just that the face of the automation was either the Visual Basic or some kind of
Yeah.
Excel automation or some kind of automation that has been replaced by RPA after 5 years later. And now it is AI. It's more of a change of the time. And then I believe that the more you learn about the system, about the technology, the more flexible and comfortable you'll become. AI has a lot of features, especially for the finance, which I mean, I personally love it when I have to sit down and do any kind of a deep dive analysis, any market research. I love using AI. Obviously, at my level, I do have a time crunch. I cannot spend hours and hours or entire day basically doing the research. And that's where I would like to leverage AI in terms of helping me out if I have to do some kind of research, any particular territory, any particular product. It's very easy. It's just that the output what they are giving you, you have to go through once. You cannot completely be blindsided and rely on that data
Right.
completely. You have to go back, verify that the output what you are getting. Of course, there are multiple versions of the AI right now available in the market, and every AI has its own
Right.
advantage and disadvantage. Trust me, I've done my research as well on every tool, be it from ChatGPT to Copilot to Perplexity, everything I have used. And everyone, even I have used Manus also from China, and everyone has its own advantages. And I loved all depending upon the requirement. I use that, and I would encourage all the people, especially in the finance, start using it. It's not a kind of a threat, it's more of a friend. It's up to you how basically you want to use it. I would suggest that start using it more as a kind of a strength, more as a kind of additional help, and not as a kind of a threat. I've been using, as I said, for all my credit checks, as well as recently I've also started using it for the market research and the analysis. So I would encourage all the people who are going to listen or listening this podcast must use and start learning how to use
Got
that.
it. Great. Thanks, one. I think very detailed answers and lovely answers in terms of using technology the right way. The three I's that you mentioned, integration, intelligence, and insights, pretty much covers things. Integrations are the wherewithal, the basics and fundamentals, without which you don't get the right source of data. Intelligence in terms of understanding what decisions you need to take, how to make the best use of the data, how to make the best use of processes, and insights using that to take decisions. I think all three are very linked, and you summarized it really well in terms of the current challenges in ERP, lack of seamlessness, the lack of flexibility, and not lack exactly where it can be really done better, the seamlessness and flexibility of the
Yeah.
systems. And we at Finflow have seen the similar things. That's where we see that there's a lot of automation that service providers can come and get in and bring it atop the ERP and add that seamlessness, add the flexibility, add the data warehousing, getting the data connectivity and building AI layers. And a lot of AI, great AI products have been there across the ecosystem. And I also resonate with that thought of AI being a friend rather than being an adversary. I think that's very important because you should see it as a way it can strengthen your what you are doing, make you better at your work, and loved also the applications of AI that you are AI and ML that you are applying. So loved your answer. I think this one we'll go to the last question, last piece. And we're running a little bit out of time. So just wanted to know
Okay.
what will be the two, three pieces of advice that you'll give to finance professionals to become a finance leader like you.
My biggest advice to all the aspirant CFO or who are in the mid manager level who want to become a CFO, or any people who just started their career in the finance, I want you guys to start think beyond the accounting, because the CFO role is changing a lot. It's no longer just about doing the financial control or presenting the financials to the board and just talking about the numbers. It's all about the value creation. That's something I mentioned. That was one of the thing which I started doing as soon as I joined Akraya. If you have to really focus on, let's say, two or three key areas, then I would say focus on your how basically what kind of a lever basically impact the overall business, your profitability and the growth, commercial acumen, you can say. In terms of technical or digital transformation, embrace tool like Power BI, the ERP, which we have been talking about, AI. AI, as I said, that it's not going to replace any finance profession. It's going to elevate you. The entire CFO future, it's no longer going to be only a kind of strategist. You're going to be part of strategist, part of technologist, and then part of storyteller. So connecting data to decision and then decision to value, that's something you have to start focusing on if you haven't started doing that. And then of course the leadership and the communication. Number will not speak for themselves. You have to translate them a kind of a story or a kind of a strategy for a non-finance leader, because the people whom you are dealing with in day out, they are not from the finance. So these are the key three messages. Of course, I would like to give it to all the aspirant. And then one last thing: stay curious. Why stay curious? Because things are changing very drastically. What kind of a technological change will happen next month, you and I will also not get to know. So if anything happens, keep yourself updated with the changes, keep yourself engaged with the new learnings, and then that's how you will help the organization with the growth. You will stay adaptable basically with the learning about technology, governance, or any kind of business model changes that comes. So that's how I see the next generation of CFOs should be
Got it.
focusing on.
Thanks one for sharing your pieces of advice for finance professionals to become a finance leader like you. Have come to the end of our podcast. Thanks for joining in. I hope you had a great time listening to Swan and me talking about Swan's journey and his perspective on the entire aspect of leading global finance teams, his experience at Akraya, and his take on the applications of AI and how ERPs can, what are the flexibility and seamlessness in forms of improvement for ERPs, and finally his advice for finance professionals. So thanks everybody for joining in. Thanks one for being a lovely guest. It was great to have you.
Thank you. No, thanks for having me, Amartya. It is lovely conversation. It's my pleasure completely. And one last message which I would like to give it to all your audience and the users, that financial leadership is no longer about control. It's about the contribution. So start contributing.
Goodbye everybody. Thank you.